everyone, what is going on? MysticFox Live and welcome back to the channel. In today's Payday 2 video, I'm going to be putting every Payday 2 heister into a tier list to give my opinions on who I think are the better and not so good heisters. Originally, I was asked to do this as a ranked from worst to best video. I personally do not want to go down that line because my opinions will definitely not agree with a lot of the people watching, and so doing a tier list allows me to be a bit fairer and have several heisters at the top and maybe several heisters at the bottom as well, and some kind of mix in between, so it's not a direct hierarchy from top to bottom. But before we get into this video, there is something I need to share with you first. This is Dallas. Dallas is a Payday 2 heister. He likes robbing banks, stealing jewelry, and making money. But Dallas needs something to keep him going, something to allow him to move from heist to heist without dying, without feeling down or injured or sad, and that thing is his medic bag. Without that medic bag, he can't continue to heist, and nobody wants Dallas to stop heisting. Now let's turn our attention to this person here. This person is a Payday 2 YouTuber. He likes making content for both Payday 2 and 3 for all platforms, and debating the latest news, releases, and DLC content. In order to keep making these videos and producing high quality content that you all have come to expect and deserve, this YouTuber also needs something himself, and that is sponsorships. Without them, he hasn't got the money to ensure that this can be his part-time job, and he won't be able to continue working towards his new, improved, and upgraded setup. And without all that stuff, there may be less content from this channel. And nobody wants that. Well, maybe some of you do, but that's not the point. Okay, let's get real. This is the very first video on the Red Archer Live channel that features a sponsorship, and so I've got to thank Monster Legends for sponsoring this video, and so I want to talk very briefly about that game before we get into the tier list. While I'm sure a lot of you will have heard of this game by now, for those of you who don't know what Monster Legends is, it's a free-to-play mobile game available on both Android and iOS. And the aim of the game is all about collecting, breeding, and building up monsters to fight with other people across the planet. There are hundreds of different monsters to collect, and you may have seen other YouTubers talk about this before, because there are certain YouTubers out there who've had their characters put into the game, such as Vanos Gaming, I Am Wildcat, Mr Beast, Laserbeam, and even Dream if you're into the Minecraft stuff. Whilst you're collecting these monsters, you can breed two together to get new unique monsters, you can feed the monsters as well to take them into battle, and there are also different PvP modes, including special dungeons and an adventure map that feature within this game. And you can fight in real time with people across the world, including your own friends, although that one's on your own head, because if you do end up beating your friend, you might end up in a bit of an argument. And if you happen to be worried about the longevity of the game, well, you don't need to, because there are events every single week to discover, allowing you to play all new adventures. If all of this sounds good to you and you'd like to give the game a go to support myself and the channel, then make sure you head to the link in the description to download the game right now, and you'll get a very special reward worth $30. That reward includes 50,000 food, 300,000 gold, and an epic monster for just joining via the link in the description. That monster's name is Noarian. No, I can't pronounce names, I'm terrible. So thank you very much to Monster Legends for supporting this video. It is greatly appreciated to get some sponsored content on this channel. But either way, with that being said, let's get straight into the tier list and start by rolling the intro. So here we are with our Payday 2 tier list, and as you can see, I've created a tier for the remaining heisters only because the colouring of the masks makes them invisible on the white background, so you can see in the remaining tier which ones we've got left to do. And the way I'm going to work this is I'm going to go through each heister in release order from the oldest to the newest, except for Hoxton because he's one of the original four and I wanted to treat him as such. So let's kick off the video and start by putting Dallas into a tier. Now Dallas is our leading man, he's the character and the face that everybody knows when they talk about Payday 2. Does this make him the best character in the game? I wouldn't say so. Being the most iconic character doesn't necessarily mean you're the best character in the game, but Dallas is still a very, very good character. You've got the voice acting from Simon Kerr and the live action acting from Eric Atabari, both of whom are really great people, and their performances are very good. But the thing that knocks Dallas down just a little bit for me, and it's a bit subjective, is I don't really like that his most popular lines are meme lines. The memes are funny, don't get me wrong, even if a bit outdated at this point, but when the most iconic line from Dallas is him saying that he needs a medic bag and screaming profusely, it's not really the highlight of his performance. So for me, while I do like Dallas and I really like his character, I think he's not quite S tier, I'm going to put him in A. I think that's a fair place to put Dallas. Next up, we're looking at Chains. I really like Damien Poitier's performance. I think he is one of the best voice actors that the game has had on. I think he plays Chains fantastically. A lot of his lines are genuinely amusing. His character is quite interesting, and I really like that he's one of the characters that featured a lot in the live action trailers. Him being a part of those was very cool. To me, Chains is a character that I can always go back to and have fun with, so to me, I think he quite easily belongs in the S tier. Next up, we've got the first of our British heisters, Hoxton. The thing that I love the most about Hoxton, to me personally, is the amount of love the community have for for him, because as a lot of you know by this point, Hoxton was not in Payday 2 when it first launched. He could have been, but he wasn't asked to come back. It wasn't down to scheduling conflicts, as a lot of people say, and if you want to know more about that, my podcast episode where I interview his actor Pete Gold might be of interest to you. Point is, when Hoxton wasn't in the game, the Payday 2 community noticed and complained to Overkill, eventually getting them to put Hoxton in the game just because people had asked for Hoxton so much. And to me, there's something really nice about that community element of bringing him back into the game because everyone wanted him back, and rightly so. His character is funny, entertaining, Pete Gold's performance is brilliant, and at this point I really can't imagine Payday 2 without him, so to me, Hoxton once again is an S tier character. Next up, we've got Wolf. Now, Wolf is a very difficult one because he's a character that a lot of people either love or don't really care for. Me, myself, I'm somewhere in between. I don't love Wolf's character, I've never really played as him, he doesn't interest me all that much, but he's one of the original four, his performance is very good, his lines are entertaining. The issue I have obviously stems around Ulf Andersson's departure and how far behind on voice lines Wolf has come. The difficulty with this is that it's very difficult to blame Ulf Andersson for what happened here because obviously there was some drama behind the scenes between himself and his brother Bo, issues that we still don't have clarification of to this day. But putting that aside, I have to be honest and say that because Wolf's voice lines are so far behind to the point where for him to shout out a medic, they had to take two of his old lines and splice them together to make something similar, it does ruin Wolf's character a little bit because it feels like he's just a few steps behind every other character in the game in terms of voice lines, interaction, that kind of thing. Combine that with the fact that he's not my favourite character, I'm not a huge fan of Wolf's, and I'm not really too keen on how far behind he is despite the circumstances, I'm going to put Wolf in B tier. And this is the point where I know immediately I'm going to start getting my first angry comments, so please refrain them, it's my opinion, don't judge me too hard. Up next on the list we have Houston, who faces a bit of a difficult position in all of these Payday 2 heisters, because to me Houston kind of got the short end of the stick. He was the character that was added because Hoxton wasn't in the game. And while there are a lot of people who really like Houston, I'm not suggesting that there aren't, people really wanted Hoxton back in the game, and it created a bit of a rivalry between Hoxton and Houston that was even referenced in their own voice lines. And so to me, if you were to put Houston and Hoxton against each other, who would I pick? Hoxton, easily. I mean, that's why he's S tier. Houston has some good lines, obviously the infamous don't act dumb, but beyond that, there aren't really any standout lines in his character that really resonate with me beyond just playing as him as a core character. So while I do like Houston and Derek Ray's performance I think is really good, he's just not one of my favourite characters, and for me, I think he belongs in the B tier alongside Wolf. Up next on our list, we have John Wick, and to be honest, I've got to thank Payday 2 for even putting John Wick on my radar. That whole film franchise was not something I even knew about or cared about until I played Payday 2, realised he was in a film, went and watched it, and fell in love with it. So immediately, for the sake of nostalgia, John Wick's got to get some points on that front for me. But my main criticism for this character, and I know I'm really reaching here, so please bear with me on this, I'm not a massive fan that Keanu Reeves isn't the one playing him. To me, John Wick is very much Keanu's character, and for anyone else to try and play him in a different media, I'm just not too sure I can get behind it. And I feel bad because I have no problem with the actor's performance, I think his performance is fine, but when he's not Keanu Reeves, and there is quite a difference between their voices, you do notice. And so for me, I like John Wick being in the game, I like all the connections they made between Payday 2 and John Wick and all the different DLCs they've done, and I also have to appreciate Payday 2's John Wick character for getting me into the character to begin with. So to me, I'm torn between giving him A or giving him a B tier. I don't really know. Is he the same level as Wolf and Houston, or is he the same level as Dallas? Honestly, I'd probably pick Wolf and Houston, so I think he's got to go in the B tier. Up next on our list, we have Clover, who was the character I played the most before Sydney was added to the game. Yes, we'll get to Sydney eventually, I know what you're all thinking on that front. When I first got Payday 2 Crime Wave Edition on Xbox One, there were two characters I played as the most. I played as Hoxton for a little bit, and then I switched to Clover and played as her way more. The voice actress's performance is fantastic, her name's on screen now because I wouldn't even dare pronounce the first name because I definitely get it wrong. But I really do like her performance, there are some very iconic lines in Clover's character. Anyone who's played as Clover or has heard some of her voice lines will know the ones I'm talking about. But Clover is a really standout heister. I really like her, and I think she is one of the cooler original characters they added during Payday 2's run. So for me, Clover goes in the A tier. Next up on the tier list is Dragon, a character that I do really like. I never really played as him too much. One of my closest friends played as him all the time on Xbox One Payday 2, so I came to love his lines through my friend playing as him. Dragon has some really good lines. I quite like his character, and I like the backstory behind him being a cop turning into a heister, and I like his performance. I think it's a bit monotonous at times. There's not really a lot of kind of variance in vocal performance, but I think that's more just Dragomir's style. I don't really think that's him being lazy in the performance, whereas someone else we'll get to later I think definitely was being lazy. But I like Dragon's performance, and so I'm torn again between putting him in A tier and putting him in B tier. I think I'm going to put Dragon in A tier because I think he just gets in there. Up next on the tier list is Jacket, a character that I'm going to be very careful with in this tier list because I know if I put him in the wrong place, a lot of angry Jacket fans are going to try and kill me. But I have to preface this by saying I have never played Hotline Miami or Hotline Miami 2. I don't really have an interest in those games. The top-down arcadey shooters aren't really my type of bag. But as a core character, I really like the idea of using using a tape recorder to answer all the lines. No one actually knows what you sound like. There is a very mysterious aura around his character. I quite like the traits to him. I wouldn't play as him personally, but I can respect why people love him so much. I'm going to do this for everybody else and put him in the A tier because I know how loved he is. I personally would have put him more in the B area, but I do like the traits of his character that are really unique, like the tape recorder. So I think for me, he just gets into A. Next up, we've got Bonnie, and this is a difficult one because Bonnie ends up at the butt of a lot of jokes, being one of the weaker heisters in the game. I've got to be honest, I'm not a massive fan of Bonnie. Out of all the characters in the game, she doesn't interest me a great deal. Look, when you spend years waiting for DLC to come to Payday 2 on console, you count down the things you're most excited to, and I've got to be honest, when Bonnie got added, I wasn't exactly that hyped. I was like, oh, cool, new character, don't care about her, but new character. I'm just not really a big fan of Bonnie's character, so for me, I'm going to probably annoy some people, but I think she belongs in the C tier. Next up on our tier list is Sokol, a very middling character for me because I don't really have a positive or negative outlook on him. There are a few characters that are like this that I'll get to. The thing is, I've never really played as Sokol a great deal. I've never really heard a lot of his lines. He's not someone I've experienced too much. His suit is quite nice. I like his accent. I like his mask. I'm not really going to try and find excuses where there aren't any. I'm going to put him straight down in the middle because I don't really have enough of an opinion to put him in either A, C, wherever. And I'm going to have a very similar opinion for Jiro as well because Jiro is a cool character. I'm a bit more appreciative of him now that I've started playing Yakuza 0. I quite like the whole Yakuza vibe that the character has, but I don't have a lot of flaws and against for Jiro's character. I barely even understand half of what he says because I don't speak Japanese. That's not me having a go, by the way. That's not me saying it's a disadvantage. It means I can't really judge his character when I don't know what he's saying. Once again, B tier alongside Sokol. And to close off our little segment of I don't know this character very well, we're going to finish off with Bodhi. Again, I don't know a great deal about his character. I can't really give him much abuse because I don't really listen to his lines very much. He's one of those characters where I just haven't paid a lot of attention to him because I'm too busy looking at other characters and playing as other people. So again, he goes in the middle. I don't like or dislike him particularly. I need to play as him more to get a proper opinion, but to me, him, Jiro, and Sokol are all characters I wish I'd played more as before making this tier list. Don't particularly love them, don't particularly hate them. They go in B tier. But now we go back to our more opinionated sections, and now we look at Jimmy. Another case like John Wick where Payday 2 got me into another film. And Hardcore Henry, I actually really enjoyed that film. The first time through it was a bit nauseating having the first person camera, but once you learn to ignore that, it's a really, really enjoyable film. Jimmy as a character is just fantastic in Hardcore Henry and in Payday 2. Sharlto Copley is a fantastic actor. I love his portrayal in this game. There's not really a lot of question. Jimmy is an S tier heister. I think he's a really cool character and he belongs up there. And next up, we've got Sydney. Now, a lot of you are going to predict where this character's going immediately, and I'm not even going to try and make any excuse to hide it. Sydney is an S tier heister. Look, she's my favorite character, and the whole point of this video is it's about my own opinions, and I don't like that I'm already getting defensive about this because I know it's going to annoy people. Sydney is probably the most Marmite character in Payday 2 I've ever seen. You either love her or you hate her. I don't find a lot of opinions that sit in the middle there, but I really love the punk rock, anarchy, Sex Pistols vibe the character has. I really like her look, maybe because of the blue hair, which I wish I could say was isolated to just this game, and I really like George's performance. I know that turns off some people don't like the kind of higher pitched, shouty type lines that kind of puts them off the character, which is fine. I do completely understand it, but for me, because I really like Sydney, she goes an S. I'm scared of what the comments are going to say, especially when I annoy a lot of my American viewers with the next choice, which is Rust. This might just be my experience in playing Payday 2, but whenever I play Payday 2 online with an American person, most commonly you get them saying that they think it's really cool that Ron Perlman was in the game, and I honestly don't remember having that conversation with anybody else outside of the US. It's like he almost has this kind of cult status that everyone loves this actor because he was in Hellboy and Sons of Anarchy and all that stuff, but he's never personally an actor I've been very familiar with. So already I'd be thinking about maybe putting him in the B tier, but there's a bit more than that. As a Hollywood actor, it's very clear that Ron Perlman only took on the job for the money. He literally said it himself in a Reddit AMA. If I can find the picture, I'll put it up on screen. If not, you can just hear me saying it, but someone asked him in a Reddit AMA why he chose to take on a role in Payday, and his reply was, the last word in your question had a lot to do with it. But at base, this would not be bad in any way if you couldn't also tell via his performance. I'm sorry, but he is just the most monotone character in the entire game. I know I said Dragon was a bit monotonous, but as I said, I think that's more of his character's style. With Rust, all the lines are like this: suck it, Taser, got the cloaker, get everyone on the ground. It's like he's just putting in the bare minimum effort to make the character and get paid, and then go. And it makes me sad that you can hear that in his performance, at least I can. So while I know a lot of people in America have this kind of cult status of loving Ron Perlman, I'm sorry, he's got to go in C tier for me. He's not D tier, that tier's being saved for someone else down the line, but he just is not very good. The performance just isn't believable, and I'm not a massive fan of the character anyway. So I'm sorry, but Rust is a C. Time to say hello to my little friend, because our next character to look at is Scarface. Again, not played by the original character from the 80s, but this one you can forgive a little more. What does help here is the performance of the actor who plays Scarface in this game is really, really good. I like the way they brought Scarface into the game. I like the performance. I like the character's style. He's a very solid character. I don't tend to play as him a lot, and I'm thinking I put him in B, but he's the highest B out of all of them, purely because I really do like the character. I just don't love him. We're in the final 5 heisters now, and now we're looking at Sangres' position in the tier list. And while I don't want to be boring here, he is a character very similar to some of the others I've talked about before, where he's not someone I've played as a great deal, and I don't have a lot of compliments or criticisms towards his character. Something I will point out is I like that this character has all different shirts he can wear when you play as the character. I'm going to put Sangres in B tier, another very high B. I like his character, but again, don't have a great deal to say for or against him. Actually, do you know what? I don't think Scarface and Sangres are on the same level. Do you know what? I'm going to be nice and putting Scarface into A, low A tier. Let's put him there, and then Sangres can be in B. Yeah, we're changing it round. So let's go with that. Time to move on to one of the most important characters in the story, Duke. The guy who canonically helped solve a lot of the puzzles leading up to the secret in the White House, and a character who is also just very cool. He's this older, more refined Heister. He really likes crime, and he's a very interesting character. And Nicholas's performance as Duke is really, really good. I honestly really like it. Kind of another Scarface for me. I don't have a lot to say about him, but I do like his character, so for me, I think he's another A-tier character. But now it's the time you were all probably waiting for. H3. Where is Troy going to put these in the tier list? I will say one thing off the bat. One is going in C, one is going in D. Can you guess who's going in where? Well, if not, let me explain. I know there's a whole can of worms to open here as to how the characters were made, and it was an April Fool's joke that went a bit too far, and the idea was they were going to make profits to put towards their lawsuit they were running at the time. But as core characters, I don't really mind the concept of adding the YouTubers in, provided you make it work with the canon. But just having them be YouTubers and come into Payday 2 and canonically be YouTubers as well, man, no, why? Say they were in the world of entertainment, say they hosted a TV show, say something like that. Don't say they were online content creators and that Bane just pulled them off of the internet and into the safe house. It just doesn't work. Ethan makes a hell of a lot of meme references, and honestly, some of them aren't that bad. Some of them are quite cringy, but they're, you know, a bit dated at this point. But his actual voice acting performance, genuinely, is not awful. It's not great. It really, really is not great. Compared to a lot of the characters here, it is pretty bad. But he does actually vary the tone of his voice a good bit, and so playing as Ethan is not really too bad. He's kind of like the memey character of the game. He's not really a very good character, but he's not the worst one in the game. Ethan, for me, is the one to go in C tier, which means, as you can see coming, Healer is going to go in the D tier. Let me explain why. I feel really bad doing this because I remember reading up a story that said that when they were recording the voice lines for H3, Healer said she was going to quit because she didn't think she was very good, and Almir and Ethan both talked her into staying in the role, finishing it off, and becoming the character in the game. And I know this is going to sound really, really awful, but I know exactly why Healer was thinking of leaving. I'm sorry, but she just is not cut out for voice acting. She doesn't have that type of personality in her voice. She does not put a lot of push into her voice lines. They're very calm, even when there's an assault happening, and they're very, very basic monotone lines, again, quite like Rust. But at least with Rust, you've got a good actor behind the monotonous, not really caring attitude. That's not to say Healer wasn't caring, but it just doesn't really come across in the performance that she really had a great deal of effort in those voice lines. While I am sorry to put her in D because I do feel quite harsh considering the circumstances around her making the character, I'm sorry, she just is not anywhere near as good as any other character. She definitely is the worst Heister in Payday 2. And so we're left with one final Heister, and that being Joy. To finish off this list, I'm not really sure where to put Joy, to be honest, because she's another character that's very middling for me. As a character, canonically, I quite like that we have a hacker now who's an expert with computers and stuff, and how that's going to be translating into the future City of Gold campaign. I like the way that's looking, and I do like her outfit. I think her outfit's quite decent apart from the We Are Gamers shirt. That's probably a bit too on the nose, as is her shouting out, "Got the shield, 10 points," or whatever she says, I can't remember. And her voice lines, like Sydney's, are of a higher pitch a lot of the time, but honestly, I can't tolerate Joy's nearly as much as I do Sydney's. I feel like I'm sitting on the fence a lot with these characters, but I don't think Joy belongs in C tier. I think she's a decent character, so I'm going to put her in the B tier. I think that's probably where she belongs. There we have it, our final Payday 2 Heister tier list. I know people are going to be very angry about this in the comment section. Again, please try and be nice in your criticisms. You might say you disagree with me. Please don't be nasty about it. It's just not needed. But I will leave a link to this tier list in the description if you want to have a go of it and send me what you think on Twitter at RedArcherLive. Make your tier list, let me know what you think, and I'd be interested to see what you all come up with in this Payday 2 Heister tier list. But that does bring an end to this video, so provided you aren't disappointed with all of my choices, please let me know what you think of the video by leaving a thumbs up to show me you've enjoyed this tier list and would like to see more of them. And if you are new around here, feel free to click that subscribe button because it's quick, it's free, and I'll always love you for doing so. Thanks once again go to Monster Legends for sponsoring this video. It really is greatly appreciated. But either way, thank you all very much for watching. I will see you all next week with a brand new video. Until then, look after yourselves, stay safe. Thanks for watching.